Okay,
Yeah.
so now it's officially started.
Yes.
And you asked me how I was or to do check-ins. Do you want to start?
Yeah.
Me start? You start?
You go ahead.
Okay. Um, ooh. It is very cold and very snowy, and I enjoy it. It fluctuates quite a lot, so it's kind of fun for a change. I had my first own attempt at facilitating a pre-circle today.
Really?
Yeah, and so that's fun. I was kind of nervous. That's why I sent the compilation thing. Like I wanted to have some kind of paper that I can present to people. It makes it easier.
Good.
Uh, and uh, yeah, my mood goes up and down, but there's some continuous self-development happening and interesting connections with people. So at the moment, I feel okay. Yep. How are you?
I'm going to reflect actually that you're having some really cold and snowy weather and the temperature's been fluctuating, but you like the snowy weather that you're enjoying. And you got a chance to facilitate a restorative circle for the first time today, and you had a lot of fun. And and you're finding that you're making progress in your personal development, but you're also experiencing mood swings. And all of this resonates pretty deeply with me. Was that accurate?
I don't know, mood swings, like just going through like
Okay.
rough emotions.
Okay.
But I also feel like I am gaining something by reaching out to people and showing myself more, like trying to trust. So it's a good thing. I feel I'm in a good place right now. Yep.
Yeah. All of those experiences kind of strike a deep chord in me right now. Actually, I tried to go and see James on the weekend because I went down to Ottawa, which is a little bit closer to him, and then we had a snowstorm and it snowed 40 inches in Syracuse, so I didn't go. And I visited somebody down there, and it's incredibly cold here, and I feel the same way. I'm making a lot of progress, but everything is happening very quickly, and there's a lot to juggle as usual. Um, and I'm recognizing the value of trust tremendously, but at the same time, I'm having challenges, I guess, because I see the potential for a breach of trust to undermine friendships, even though it's not necessarily. Did I tell you about exporting the car?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm working on setting up the export business, and I've been invited to go and meet another exporter tomorrow. And he has nothing to do with her or anybody, in the NVC community or RC community. And I recognize that as I deal with people, I need to understand the ins and outs of the export business and the realities of that thoroughly and to understand what can happen. So I've been reading about scams and things like that, export scams particularly, where you have a client lined up, you send them a car, they send you or deposit money into your account in the form of a check. The bank clears the check, tells you the money's in the account, and then the check bounces. And quite often, I mean, I could go into stories, but anyways, the problem is not necessarily with the people that I'm collaborating with that would be within the restorative circle community or the NVC community. I was thinking about the possibility of setting up the export business as part of the money pile and a shared economy and whatnot, and making it sort of a collaborative thing where there was profit sharing and a good chunk of the money or whatever beyond, you know, maintaining the business and paying bills and whatnot would get shared out to, you know, community development or projects or paying for people to travel and stuff for restorative circles or Dominic Barter's seminars or something. So this is all sort of a concept that I'm kicking around and sharing now a little bit more. I'm kind of seeing what is suggested because it's all supposed to be egalitarian and shared and whatnot. And some of my old ideas I might be tripping over or whatever. So I'm kind of soliciting feedback. But I also recognize as I kind of dive into this that these problems could come up and it could complicate things or undermine relationships or kind of, I mean, it has the potential to destroy if you're not careful with it. So I don't know. I've been thinking about all of those things, and I've been thinking about internet security, and I mean, it could get to the point where you could sink into absolute paranoia. The idea that although the nonviolent communication and restorative justice and restorative circle community are all very, very legitimate, you could have somebody join the group who was reaching out privately and was sort of using the group as a false identity or kind of a wolf in sheep's clothing to prey on or use the legitimacy, I guess, and the values and whatnot in order to um, disguise their intentions, I guess. So when you get into that, it becomes very difficult to kind of focus on the main reason that we're here. And for me, that's to learn restorative justice and learn the circle process and learn NVC and do mediation facilitation and things. And it's getting exhausting. I don't know exactly what to focus my intention or attention on. And I recognize exactly how easily I could let money actually get in the way of community again, I guess. And that bothers me. I mean, I got out of my old job making money or whatever because it was disconnecting and isolating and kind of made me miserable. And I feel like I'm in danger of falling into a new trap where I'm starting a business and chasing money and whatnot. And the added stress and stuff could take my attention away from this. And I'm on a bit of a ramble now. Can you understand why I'm kind of, I mean, I'm really twisting right now. It's, I've got good friendships with people that are overseas that are part of this, that are members of Hearth. And I recognize that they could very easily be dramatically affected by this. You know, I don't have any reason to think that they are trying to scam me. But if the person that they're selling the car to pulls a stunt like this, then all of a sudden there's a tremendous pressure or whatever of potential suspicion. And you don't really know, I don't know what to do about it, I guess, or how to manage it.
Okay. So I'm kind of hearing that you're also going through a lot of different changes within yourself and in relation to other people. And a thing that you find stressful is when money is involved. There's a different type of intensity or potential for break of trust than when when it comes to emotional matters. And right now you're worried about the deal you're making where other people are involved, and like kind of realizing that there are many different parts of it and that you don't really have control over exactly all the parts. So if something happens, it's not so easy to figure out like where it went wrong. And you don't want to destroy like mm, yeah, like you're kind of thinking that it would be really nice to be in community with other people where you can involve many different aspects of life, how to support one another, but you're kind of finding a limit within yourself of uh, where you need to build more trust or have more security in order to be able to function and be okay with people.
I'm, yeah, that's really close. I think I have more to add, actually.
Mm.
It's, at first I was completely resigned to, I mean, I looked at the value of the car and I looked at everything that I've learned in the last 9 months from the group. And I thought to myself, if I lose the value of the car, then it's still money well spent. It's almost like, okay, well, with that, it's like I paid for a year of university and I enjoyed it thoroughly and it's going to benefit me and I would, happily do it again. So it seemed like good value for the risk that I was assuming. And that's a worst case scenario, it's just sort of, okay, this is a calculated risk that I can feel good about. If I get ripped off, then it'll be embarrassing or whatever, but I'm much wiser for it and much richer for it in my community and my family and stuff. And I can kind of shrug my shoulders and eat some crow or whatever and move on. But I've been kind of contemplating the idea of proposing a life of service. And I'm not, I'm just kind of kicking this around. I wrote up a letter sort of I directed it at Dominic Barter, but I'm thinking that it should be more through the restorative justice community, or maybe, I'm not exactly sure, but I like the idea of participating fully in this for the rest of my life if I could, and finding a way to do it. Like if I could actually operate an export business and then provide funding and assistance and, share in the responsibilities. If there are people all over the world and they can go out and find people to purchase cards, then, we can create a network and stuff and generate a revenue stream that would support the community. But the person that I'm going to meet with tomorrow, this exporter, has 107 cars that he wants to move, and he's looking for an opportunity to make a connection. And I don't know him from a hole in the ground. And it could be a situation where he's trying to play to greed, eliminate competition, He could be just, a very competitive mindset, working in a coercive environment. Maybe he's looking for an opportunity to create a win-win situation. You know, go and meet the guy or whatever, and I withhold judgment and stuff, and hopefully it's very positive. But again, he's outside the group. There are going to be purchasers that are outside the group, and so it becomes, what steps do we take to protect ourselves as a community if I get this business going? I don't know. It was easy when I was just thinking about the one car and whether I could absorb the loss. But as the business gets bigger, it becomes, how do you keep on making calculated, measurable risks that you can afford to lose rather than risk growth or other people investing or being committed and then having them damaged by it? It's there's a tremendous amount of responsibility and accountability there that feels intimidating. You could get to the point where you had a lot of people depending on you or whatever, and then a mistake happens and they're deeply impacted by it. So, and just there's a lot to think about. I can't hear you.
Yeah, that you have an important meeting coming up, and you really want to be clear within yourself about all the risks, and for you, what's important is to be in community with other people, and that's not something that you want to trade.
Yeah.
Are you ready to?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
The last part was just that all of that is affecting my bandwidth for the stuff that we're focusing on, and that
Yeah.
bothers me a lot. If I could do this sort of one subject at a time, it would be.
Are you sure you want to do it now, or do you prefer something else? We could.
I think I do want to do it now.
Okay.
Because if I don't, I feel like it's just going to pile up or whatever, and it's going to get more challenging. I need to make space for each thing in its own time, because otherwise, yeah, my frequency changes.
So it's like you're stretching, but it's something that you want to do because you want to learn how to be able to do it as well.
Without this, the restorative circles training, I wouldn't be able to do the other. This is the foundation. I need to build this. Otherwise, I'm dead in the water with the other stuff. So it needs to be a priority.
Can you clarify what you mean with that?
I think developing the toolbox that facilitates communication and connection is the foundation of all of the other things that are built upon it. So the export business is, if it gets going, would, I think the entire business model would pretty much evolve around um, the gift giving or gift sharing economy and the money pile and collaboration and connection and relationships. And if I'm not effective at reflecting, and if I'm not good at connecting and paying attention to feelings and needs and being able to facilitate around conflict, then I probably am not going to have a fighting chance in that kind of environment.
Yeah, so it's quite big plans that you're big changes that you're thinking when it comes to how
It's a
to provide for
consideration.
it?
The other thing is I have doubt about whether it's the right path. Maybe I'm chasing the wrong thing.
Mm,
Maybe I should be kind of not being so ambitious, and maybe I'm distracting myself from the things that I should be more focused on right now.
mm. I'm just
It's
gonna, yeah, I'm
yeah,
just gonna go ahead and say that it sounds like quite a big thing, exciting, interesting, and at the same time, it's really worthwhile taking those concerns and hesitations
yeah,
that you have seriously. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, that you don't need to change your whole life now,
yeah,
especially if there are big risks involved. Yeah. But yeah, I do hear that in order to function well with other people, then skills like NVC and RC, which is an extension of that, make sense to have. Yes. It just sounded very dramatic when you were like, I better do this, otherwise I'm dead in the water. Like it's like,
Sorry.
like what the hell? Yeah, but yeah, I'm not laughing at what you're
I
going
know.
through. I hear that it's like quite
Yeah,
big decisions that you're thinking about that
yeah.
will have an impact. So yeah.
Okay. Shall we get down to it?
Yeah.
I
Can I ask if you've talked with James? I mean, you didn't get to see him, but have you talked anything about this with him?
he knows that, but a lot of the ideas have developed while he's been away in the past couple of days.
The RC outline and
Um, my ideas about the possibility of sort of offering up, a life of service sort of thing is one of them.
mm,
And um, after I had talked to him, I kind of started to develop a better idea of how the potential business would involve the money pile or the gift
mm.
giving economy
I
and
think
sort
I
of
think I think right now I'm interested in, have you checked in with James when it comes to anything about RC, if he's still interested
the
in it
RC.
or not? Because this is something that's not
Um,
clear to me. So I'm just
yeah,
curious if you have an
I
awareness of it.
I haven't. Um, he seems to be busy with other things now. I can send him a private message, or I could send him an email, see if
Mm.
he responds.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, he was invited to this call, right? You sent an invitation as well.
I don't know that I did.
I'm trying to remember if I asked you to, if I micromanaged that. uh,
Mhm. I didn't just intuit and
mm,
do that. We've talked about it multiple times, and I'm
mm,
not in the pattern of anticipating,
mm,
hey, wait, I'll call ahead
mm,
of time or whatever and set
mm,
these things up.
mm.
So yeah,
Well,
I mean, I can tell you point blank, I didn't think of it.
yeah, but I mean, honestly, participating in one of these things can be a bit of like just draining energy and interest in participating in one of these things, because we're not moving very smoothly or quickly
Yeah,
at the moment. So,
yeah, it's a
um,
bumpy ride.
yeah. So where are you at? Like how do you see this starting? Like, could we read through perhaps what you have written so far that you would like to share, and then I
Sure.
could make comments?
Did you see my update? I think I provided an update with a few amendments to the
Could
Facebook page.
I did see that you sent it.
Um, I think one of the things I added some stuff based on feedback that I got, but I've got it in front of me here.
Mm.
Um, let's see. Do you want me to read through it or?
Yeah, slowly. I like it when people read slowly. I'm more of a visual
Yeah.
person, so I take in stuff better by reading it.
Okay. I thought I'd put a few of the shareable quotes on restorative circles from Dominic Barter at the top, just to act as references for possibly people who were kind of new to the process, who hadn't heard about it before. I know, ideally, if you're in a community, then everybody understands the process, but there's always that potential. So I kind of wanted to have those in my notes. And then I started listing the questions. What do we currently do when conflict becomes painful that works well? What do we currently do that doesn't work quite so well? Who or how do we dream that it could be? Relationships include an organized response to conflict, justice system which can be inherited if not consciously chosen. Questions for the pre-circle.
Can you
Do a
wait?
round of
Can
check-ins.
you wait? Can you wait? I'm
Sure.
trying to find a place in the text so I can follow it at the same time.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Questions for the pre-circle. Do a round of check-ins. Connect with the initiator.
Could
Ask.
I ask that?
Yes.
Like, okay. Um, okay. I think doing a check-in can be a very nice thing to do.
Yes.
Um, but maybe bear in mind your tendency to you can float out like you did now at the beginning of this call.
Mm-hmm.
So to remember to kind of check in briefly, just kind of how are you doing, to know if somebody's, oh, I'm really stressed out or whatever, but just to keep it to
Yeah.
few minutes, not like half an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Okay.
think it's a nice idea to just kind of, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
human, you're a human. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
then
keep it
you,
to 5 minutes, sort of.
okay, yes, I think I want to say that. And then you said connect, yeah, connect with the initiator. Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, in this area, my notes are a little bit kind of fuzzy because I know that the initiator would kind of, you know, call the facilitator and whatnot. When I sort of wrote down questions for the pre-circle, it didn't feel like that sort of ties to that. This is sort of generic. Anyways, connect with the initiator, ask what was said or done that you'd like to bring to a restorative circle. Or I was thinking just the question, what happened, would be simple enough, but
Mm.
connect to the current experience and demonstrate reflection, review the process, explain the pre-circle interviews,
When you
explain
say
the circle.
when you say
Yep.
review the process, what do you mean by that? Like, or is it just a continue, like, is it linked to the explain the pre-circle and explain the circle and
Yeah, exactly. If I scroll down into the notes, I think um, I could get to the quote where I say sort of a restorative circle is a collaborative gathering of community to connect and learn across differences. It's a way of walking towards conflict. It's a shared process that sees all beings as equally important and worthy of being heard and understood. It upholds the values of equality and restorative justice to provide us with the opportunity to work together to make life wonderful.
mm.
And then you get into the process. So demonstrate active listening and reflection when you're talking to um, the um, the person calling the circle in the first place, the initiator,
Mm.
and then um, so yeah, explain the process. Now that we've talked about what happened and how it was for you, I'm going to ask who else should be at the meeting. If after that you give me permission, I'll contact those people, and if they're willing, I'll meet them. The way that the same way that I meeting you with, or that I'm meeting with you now. Sorry, I have a typo there. I'm just
Mm.
meeting with you now, and I'll ask the same questions in order to understand from their perspective what happened and what meaning it had for them, and then to see if they're clear about the process and if they think that anybody else should be at the meeting. Even if some people choose not to participate, the process will go forward. In certain cases, I might appoint another trained facilitator to represent someone who can't attend in order to ensure that we have a more complete circle.
Um,
Next. Okay.
is this something that you are really seriously intending to do now when we try this out, if we try this out? When I say this, I might appoint another trained facilitator to represent someone who can't.
Right.
I'm
Okay.
just, does that exist?
Might appoint. Yeah. Um, I think it does. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't you wouldn't ask somebody with no training to stand in,
Yeah.
but um, I think about some of the people in Hearth or whatever, if they were part of the restorative circle community, like Tina, who's familiar with role playing and whatnot, I would potentially ask somebody like that maybe to role play.
Then it's better if you put like community member or something like that. Otherwise, it's,
Yeah, okay. Instead of trained facilitator, like
yeah,
trained facilitator slash community member.
yeah. I mean, do we have any trained facilitators around? I'm asking myself, like,
I'm kind of wondering myself, but I know that there are a lot of people going through this with me. So um,
yeah.
consider the fact that this is in development, and um, I'm new enough at the process that I haven't necessarily met everybody in the community who's more familiar with it,
Mm.
who have been
And
doing it for years.
yeah, and I would add as well, to, like in at any pre-circle, like I was doing now, like the person I was talking with today that I had a pre-circle with was kind of saying, "Oh, I'm your guinea pig. Yes, this is the
Mm,
situation." So like that, we're really clear on that. It's not like
right. It's
people
an
in,
experiment for
yeah,
the,
people involved know what they're doing or has tons of experience of different situations, or yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And when saying things like that, like a trained facilitator, then it just gives off a
It,
vibe that they're,
that's true. It's sort of top down again, isn't it? Another
well,
facilitator, community member.
yeah, or not top down, but it's like talking about something that I don't experience exists.
Okay. Yeah. I I just think in terms of the teacher student thing or whatever, rather than the shared experience, which anyways, I'm getting rid of trained and I'm just putting in another facilitator slash community member
Yeah,
to represent someone who can't attend in order to ensure that we have a more complete circle.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Next, we'll have a meeting where everybody comes together and gets a chance to speak and be heard, not just the words that we're using, that we're using, but for the meaning that we want everybody to understand. Um, this will give everyone a chance to look at where we are now, how things were for each of us at the time of the act and why we chose to do what we did, and then to decide what needs to be done next. Time is monitored to ensure participants receive equal time to be heard. If the meeting can't meet that intention, then arrangements for another meeting can be made. We'll put a time frame on whatever action items are decided on and then meet again to see if they have achieved the desired end and if any further steps or actions need to be taken. This is the restorative circle process. Do you have any questions?
I think now there's a gap for me because I noticed that you added the time is monitored to ensure participants receive equal time to be heard. If the meeting can't meet that intention, it's just that when you put those two sentences in there, there's a gap between and then to decide what needs to be done next, and we'll put a time frame on whatever action items are decided. So I think it's better to put those two sentences somewhere else because otherwise the connection is lost.
Right. Okay.
As a separate thing before a paragraph or after a paragraph or something. I don't know, but it's not so important. But I just want to point that out, that it changes the meaning of what I'm reading.
Okay. I'm not sure exactly how. Yeah, I'll have to cut and paste it and doctor it up later.
Yeah.
Let me just take a quick note here using pen and paper so I don't forget.
Yeah. And I think
actually,
yeah.
Just take a screenshot.
My leg is doing weird things on me.
That's not good.
Yeah. I've been sitting a lot today, so I think I'm
circulation and stretching.
I'm shutting down.
All right.
The cat.
Yes.
It's like your image has frozen, so I can't see the cat. I see a frozen image of you. But yes.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I guess you're not really going to look through this recording again when it comes to notes.
Well, I might if you send it to me. I haven't in the past. I haven't really learned how to use it as a resource too much yet.
Yeah.
Why? What are you thinking?
No, I'm just thinking if it's such a useful thing that I'm making comments on the stuff that you've written in the outline, if it's not registered anywhere, like in your mind or on a piece of paper.
Well, I took a screenshot so I can go back and that will be the reminder that I need or whatever to make the revision.
Yeah.
So it is useful. I'm getting stuff out of it for sure.
Okay.
I'm also feeding the cats or whatever because otherwise they're going to make a lot of racket.
Yeah.
So
yeah. This is the restorative circle process. Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
And then you jump back up in the text again, apparently.
Yeah. I listed off the questions, ask what worked well, express appreciations, what could be better, how do we dream that it could be, manage expectations of the group. So the sort of qualifiers that, conflict doesn't get resolved in a 2-hour meeting necessarily. And we could be in this for the long haul kind of thing. That was sort of the manage expectations note.
Yeah, I'm just because you made a huge jump in the text. You went from review the process, and then you jumped past a lot of text to the RC explanation. So
Yes.
you've
I
done a skip. So this is also something you need to copy paste if you, I don't know if you want to share it with other people. I
the
think it
thing
is,
is, some of
yeah.
the sorry, I mean, I'm recognizing that you need it to be kind of you need to repeat certain chunks of the script in order to clearly explain each segment.
Mm,
Um, like um, there's the potential, I guess, to do the same action over a couple of times, like the explanation of the process that's going to happen um, for the initiator, the author, and pretty much anybody that you can contact out in the pre-circle. So, or with the pre-circle interviews. So, as I'm sort of breaking down the explanation of each of the three of them or whatever, it's sort of like, okay, go back to Appendix A. But yeah, so
okay, so
I'm
this,
going back
yeah.
to the. Go ahead. Sorry, I've cut
No,
you off a
I'm
couple of
just
times.
wondering, so this is confusing for you, or you're just kind of telling me that you're gonna,
I'm just telling
yeah.
you that that's the challenge.
Mm,
I found that in describing the process,
mm.
like we got down to review the process and then I jumped way down the page. Now I'm back to explain the pre-circle interviews,
Yeah, but
explain the circle.
why not like put it in the order that you say it?
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, I can do that. Um,
I mean, it makes more sense to me if something is first mentioned and explained and then like it's mentioned
yeah.
more briefly later on rather than that the
So,
explanation comes later in the text.
mhm,
I'm also thinking um, if you're thinking of maybe using something like this for people who are not used to thinking about conflict, or like thinking about conflict as a good thing or as a
yeah,
natural unavoidable part of life, then
it's going to
uh,
create a lot of apprehension and confusion.
yeah, but what I'm thinking is like the quotes that you made, that it can be worthwhile checking, like place your text amongst people who are not familiar with restorative circles already, and see
Right.
if the quotes speak to them in any way, if it makes any sense, or if there's like any questions coming up or something like that. If the idea
Yeah.
is to present it for people who are not already familiar with the whole idea.
Ironically, I did that right before we got on the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was having a conversation with somebody else who is quite unfamiliar with the restorative circle process, and um, yeah, it's a friend that I introduced to NVC and Hearth and whatnot. They have a basic understanding of that stuff, and we've been talking about all of the concepts, and so that's kind of cool. It gives me an opportunity to, you know, kind of explain things to somebody who's fairly new to it.
Mm.
So yeah. Um,
So if you get
there it is.
back to
Okay.
it again,
Yeah. So
review the
explain the
process.
pre-circle
Yeah.
interviews. Explain the circle and what questions will be asked and how the expression and reflection process works. For example, the concepts of mutual comprehension, self-responsibility, and agreed action. So for mutual comprehension, the questions would be, what would you like known and by whom about how you are now in relation to the act and its consequences? And then with self responsibility, What would you like known and by whom about what you were looking for at the moment that you chose to act? And then the agreed action. What would you like to see happen next? What would you like to offer? What would you like to request? Identify the participants. Yeah, it still kind of bounces around or whatever. I mean,
Mm,
it's, and that's the part that I found difficult is that if you explain in great detail everything as part of your meeting with the initiator, then it kind of, it gets to be too much or overwhelming. But I mean, the other, what you've expressed is also equally true. It's, if you leave the big long explanations or whatever for later, then you're not going to be able to maintain the attention of the reader. They'll get confused. You know what I mean?
um,
It's, it
I
seems problematic both ways, kind of, to me.
okay. The way I take your text currently is not that it's super clear. Uh,
Yeah,
Even for me, who knows it somewhat.
yeah.
Um,
I'm
uh,
finding the same thing. I agree with you. I
yeah,
just,
it's just how you structured it, basically. I think
yeah.
you make it a whole lot clearer.
And I
Um,
don't know how to restructure it to make it better. If
okay.
it was, I think if I did it in different segments,
Mm. The way I'm treating it right now, you can use the text that I like that I wrote that I shared in the group today.
yeah,
Like you can share that with people if they want to have something to just kind of
sure.
uh, read through quickly. But this I view more as kind of your personal notes, maybe for
Yeah,
what to think of and where to go. And you know where to jump to. I mean, you're like reading somewhere and then immediately just jump through past a large chunk of text and you start reading somewhere else. So, I mean,
yeah.
at least I just need to be certain that you know.
It's a chronological series of events for me. So it's almost like a checklist that I can go down through, um, rather than actually a how-to guide, I guess.
Mm.
And I
Well,
agree with you. I think that, to present it, I guess, to the community, it's just a set of notes. It shouldn't actually be, it doesn't fulfill the same teaching opportunity, I guess, that yours do, because I think with yours, you've kind of broken it into the three different steps and explained each one of them or whatever, rather than sort of adding the chronological series of events or whatever that a facilitator would take. I could be wrong, but I think that's about right. I
mm,
printed out, um, I
not
think you
necessarily.
submitted the first page of the restorative circle process a long time ago, and what you shared uh, just yesterday or last night is the rest of it, isn't? Is that right?
Uh, No, it's a compilation of some of the stuff that you presented in your text now, in your outline, and
Okay.
what other people, several other people, have done.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's just the usual mess of people influencing one another, and then I'm taking the parts that make sense for me, and I'm putting it together in a way that like feels easy for me to take in.
Yeah.
It might not
Okay.
be true for other people. So I've kind of completely what I try to think about in my text or where I want to go with it is that I want to have a paper presentable for other people like myself who are very visual, who kind of, oh, I understand
Mm-hmm.
something when I have it laid out in front of me, when there's the structure, I get it.
Yeah.
And also that I wanted to make sense for people who are not like speaking classical NVC or
Right.
classical RC. So I've like avoided words like author and receiver,
Yeah.
because that just doesn't make any sense for me to confuse
Sure.
people more with something that what do you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to describe the thing in itself and the purpose of it and
Yeah.
how it goes. Yeah.
Um,
Now I felt I just went off somewhere.
no, I with you actually. I was just thinking about um,
Yeah, I answered your question. Like, yeah, it's
you did. Yeah.
it's another
It's
brilliant
creating.
compilation of stuff that other people have done, combined with my own words as well.
I hear completely what you're saying about humanizing the words and not using a lot of technical jargon,
Yeah.
but it's creating conflict for me because I remember them talking about how um, if you use the wrong words, like instead of initiator and author, you
Mm.
use something that could be a
Perpetrator.
negative.
The
Yeah,
thing, yeah,
perpetrator.
yeah, but the thing is that they're talking about perpetrator and victim, and then they're finding other words for it. And I'm just saying,
Yes.
uh, uh, the act, and the
Yeah.
person who did the act, and the person the act was directed at.
Yes. Right.
To me, that's very neutral language as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have to invent like other words that are not supposed to have the same
Yeah. I
meaning
just need to
as
come up with
normal
a
language
viable
has.
alternative.
I don't know. It just doesn't. It just makes it unnecessarily hard for people to.
Yeah, to grasp. I
Yeah,
mean, it's just a lot more to absorb when you have
yeah,
to do all of the jargon that goes along with it.
yeah. And
Um,
how do I relate to these words in this context now?
yeah, I could actually
It-
expand on that. You could do all of these notes, like your explanation, and then a chronological checklist,
mm,
and then the back you could have an appendix or a glossary of terms that and provide alternate um, terms that would be effective too.
mm.
If
I
you
mean,
really wanted to explode this out or whatever and make it really, really deep and comprehensive,
yeah, I think like whatever people feel like doing, go for it. I just
yeah,
like it when things are simple as they can be.
I
I,
agree.
I
Yeah.
like that. So we're still in the process of reading through your outline of what you're gonna do. And
Is that where we are?
yeah,
Okay. Um, so mutual comprehension, what would you like known and by whom about how you are now in relation to the act and its consequences? Self-responsibility, what would you like known and by whom about what you were looking for at the moment
yeah,
that you chose that?
yeah. You read those things. The thing was
Yeah.
you kind of went to the question again about that it doesn't follow the. I mean, I do feel like you're missing the part of the. Okay, if I see it as just notes for yourself, then let's see how it
Yeah.
makes sense. Identify the participants.
Yeah. Um, sorry, I've been scrolling up and down, so now um, where did I go? Oh, here we go. And coming to an agreed action. So, what would you like to see happen next? What would you like to offer? What would you like to request? Identify the participants, confirm emotional support, identify.
Can you wait your like mind
I'm
and
going fast.
space leap there, because I'm not used to your text in the same way. So I have to also
Yes, I
make the jump to wherever you are in the text.
gotcha.
Where the hell are you?
In quotations is what would
Okay.
you like to request? And then I've got
Yeah,
bullets. You
yeah,
got it?
yeah.
So identify the participants, confirm that they have emotional support.
And this is still that
Ident-
you're in the, so the first part was kind of just in brackets or something when you're explaining the circle process, and then now you're back into the pre-circle of
that's right. Yeah.
identifying who people want to be there. Okay.
Yeah. So identify the participants, confirm emotional support, identify people who can offer support, confirm that they want to move ahead, identify the act.
Why does that come there?
Um, because you're not necessarily identifying the act in a single sentence while you're connecting to the initiator. That would probably come after you've finished the meeting with them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were calling me and saying, Dave, I want to have a restorative circle, my primary
Yeah, yeah,
motivation would be to
you,
connect with you and listen.
yeah,
And
you don't have to
yeah,
explain. I'm with you on that.
yeah, okay. Um, yeah, I just figured, afterwards you kind of figure that out or whatever before
Yeah,
you, and then maybe come
not
back
start
and
stressing people about, but what is the thing? Make it small enough or whatever.
yes, exactly. Let's see if we can agree on that.
Yeah.
It would be more like
Like
if
how
you
do
called me
I,
for this, then
yeah.
you and I would connect and talk about it. And maybe I'd call you back afterwards and I'd say, listen, I've been thinking about this and this is my summary. How do you feel about it? Does it seem accurate to you? And I would do that before I went to the author or whatever and sort of expressed that. Does that make sense?
Now I'm not following with the summary comparison.
Okay,
Maybe
because my understanding is that the act needs to be described in a fairly concise sentence.
yes.
Yeah, and it's so I'm going to get all the raw data from the initial meeting with the initiator, and
Yeah.
then I'm going to, finish that meeting, and I'm not going to bog them down by trying to analyze it right then and there on the spot. It's just going to be about connection and understanding.
So
So then I
you're
go home.
so,
Okay.
so you're thinking of making like not just one pre-circle with the person who initiates it, but to, I don't, do you really think that's necessary?
Well, I'm I'm thinking that probably,
You can ask them for help as well, you know?
yeah,
Like, yeah,
defining the act just feels to me like it should come pretty much towards the end.
but
And
not,
it's just sort of, here's our plan going forward. Here's how I'm going to communicate to the author about what happened. And, does that sound right to you?
yeah,
And then yeah.
yeah,
And then
but
from
not,
there or whatever.
okay. But I kind of lost you somewhere. I don't know if I'm tired or just, but uh, you are meaning that this is happening in one meeting, not that you're kind of listening to a person and then kind of
Calling them
taking it.
back after the
Yeah,
fact.
yeah.
Um, well, I hadn't ruled it out, but
Of
yeah,
course,
I can
if,
understand your concerns. You want to kind of do it all in one meeting or whatever, and then
yeah,
yeah, try not to complicate it with a lot of follow-ups.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Um,
it's not, I don't think it's, you don't have to be a perfect like reader of the person what they wish and want, but you just ask them questions. So
mhm.
if you would, if we would take this thing further, like how would you define it in a way that makes it inviting? Sometimes it can be
Yeah.
that for the person to join, or how
Good.
uh yeah, I think there's so many
Okay.
things to take into consideration. But
Yeah.
yeah, what is the, yeah, but what is the thing that you want to start the conversation with? Yeah, like,
Yeah.
uh,
So
uh,
you
I
got to
think,
identify the. Go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry.
yes, like ask the person. Don't take and like make. Uh, yes, I don't see any purpose whatsoever for like having a follow-up call and then coming
Mhm.
back and saying, is this the act? But it's easier to just ask the person.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anyways,
I'm like
identify the.
I'm, I'm I'm like in half shock of your like thinking process around this. Like,
Really?
yeah, yeah, in a sense, because it's just. I guess I get a sense of this kind of overthinking thing
Okay. Well,
instead of like,
welcome to my mind. Yeah.
yes, like make it
Um,
simple, make it simple.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
no. You're dealing with somebody who's pretty analytical, and I don't know. It's just the way my mind works, and sometimes it works well, and sometimes it's to my detriment.
Mm,
Um, record agreements and needs of the initiator. And I think this is important. I mean, for example, you not wanting to get contacted on Messenger or being comfortable with or wanting, meetings recorded and stuff versus James not wanting meetings recorded.
mm,
Um, those sort of agreements and getting feedback from the initiator. So, what worked with this meeting? What didn't? What could be great? Um, I think those are opportunities, I guess, to ensure that you're still kind of connected, and that during the process, some of the questions or whatever didn't kind of derail things or cause disconnection.
mm,
Gives them a chance to be completely heard.
mm,
And then managing expectations again. Please consider that there are no guarantees that everything will work in your favor or that a resolution will be achieved. Conflict never goes away, and it's not our goal to eliminate it. Our goal is to learn to support one another as we all move through it.
that sounds a little bit depressing. Um, I, hmm, uh, I'm just stuck on the conflict never goes
Mm-hmm.
away, and it's uh,
Mm-hmm.
that if it's taken in a
Yeah.
I don't know. I would reconsider the phrasing of how to put the meaning of what you want to say out there.
I was thinking about your analogy or whatever of conflict being like food.
Yeah.
We have to eat, and a community is only as healthy as how well it manages conflict. Those two, I thought were really, really good.
Or that was
But
like from Dominic Barter originally.
I
Or I
think
got
so.
it from
Dominic says,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Or in my
yeah.
case it was like Shami said that Dominic said.
Well, at least you're into second generation quotes now. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. But um but okay, I would say that when you put it the way it's phrased there, it just sounds totally depressing rather than
Yeah.
um um kind of, yeah, let's be realistic here that we don't actually know how things will work out, but
Yeah.
we will try our best, like.
Yeah.
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 But it's more like conflict never goes away. Things won't, everything won't, like
Yes.
not like when it said like that there are no guarantees that everything will work in your favor, that sounds like nobody will listen to you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll have to kind of figure out how to reframe that so it's not quite as morose sounding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But
actually, in reality, it could be like sometimes if you try out to have a conversation about a conflict, it might actually become worse.
it was interesting, actually. Um, the people that I was talking to that kind of inspired that were telling me um, their they're part of the establishment. Like they are part of the organized institutions, they're sort of the older generation or whatever that would control the means of production kind of. And so they have a lot of systemic advantages. And what they recognized, or the observation they made, was that it's a distinct possibility that if they got called into a circle like this, where everything is completely egalitarian, there's a distinct possibility that things wouldn't go all that well for them, or they would have a rough time of it,
Mm.
because they're more likely, I guess, with equal airtime to people who are marginalized and aren't heard all that often. Um, they'd be forced to confront a lot of things, and they might be challenged on a lot of stuff, and they wouldn't get all of the advantages that they're used to in this forum, which I thought was interesting.
Mm.
I hadn't really considered the fact that, you know, for some people or whatever, this is not going to be an enjoyable process because, you're always sort of thinking in terms of how it's going to impact a marginalized person or somebody that you're advocating for. But anyway, yeah, I just thought that was neat.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it from either way that
Yeah,
even though you're having a conversation, even though you're having these questions, it really depends on the capacity of the people who are present to take in what's there.
yeah, yeah.
And they're I mean, we're so trained not to. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think definitely be realistic, but maybe not so like it will absolutely not go your way.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
I'll
yeah,
try and put a little bit more positive spin on that.
yeah.
Um,
I think what I read in the original paper that I saw sometime, it was like you will be heard to your satisfaction, and I'm kind of I
yeah, maybe
I
not that either.
yeah, I think that like requires like specific circumstances and as well trust within oneself to continue to ask to be heard in a way that makes sense for you, and time and everything. So yeah,
Yeah,
but we can try.
yeah.
So if we're continuing again,
Contact the author, explain why you are there, and confirm their willingness to participate.
okay, so contact the author. Like when somebody initiates a circle, it can be anyone,
Hmm.
including the person who did something.
Right.
So contact the person. I mean, the next step in line is just to contact the people that the other person wanted to, the
Hmm.
initiator. So instead of like, yeah,
So all of these are potentially interchangeable or whatever. The initiator could be
yeah,
the author, and the author could be the initiator.
yeah,
And
and it can be a
yeah,
community, like community member or
sure. You could be contacted by a witness that saw somebody do
yeah,
something to somebody
yeah,
else. And
yeah.
yeah,
So it's basically like anyone can do it who
yeah,
feels called to do it.
yeah.
So it's not necessarily the second step to contact the author.
Hmm.
Author, I hate that word.
Yeah. I just don't know how to reframe it or whatever to kind of get all that across and still kind of keep it
For
making
yourself or for
sense.
others?
No, just for others.
For
I mean, sort of.
others, like one person initiates a pre-circle, and then
Hmm.
you have the other pre-circles as well, with all
Yeah.
the other people who are a part,
Right. Okay.
who are invited to uh,
Yeah.
the process.
One of whom will probably be, yeah, the other person in conflict, or possibly several other people in conflict.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So, yeah. explain why you're there and confirm their willingness to participate. Do a round of check-ins, 5 minutes. Connect and reflect with them. Ask the same questions and ask who should be included and excluded.
Yeah, when you say do a round of check-ins, then I'm immediately, if it's a larger group that you with, then 5 minutes is a big no. Then it's more like, how are you feeling right now? Say it in one sentence or in one word. Like,
Yes.
if you want to do a check-in, I don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Connect and reflect with them.
Yeah, it depends on how large the group is.
Yeah. Ask the same questions and ask who should be included or excluded. Confirm that they have emotional support. Identify people
When you
prepared to
say
offer this.
excluded,
Um, I think about James talking about sort of the forum and who it would be made available to. So excluded is maybe not the best term, but it's sort of how much privacy do we want to engage in this? How private is the space going to be, I guess? So it's not necessarily, these people are not allowed to attend. It's more,
so
I don't want this conversation,
but are you going to ask everyone if there's like I mean, it's not going to be, if it ever happens, if we're ever going to move forward with this, it's not going to be like 100 people. But are you going to then have like 100 pre-circles where you're asking people, who do you not want to be there? I think it's okay to make this process a specific process where we have some conditions made beforehand and they are just presented to other people. So in this case, it would be that I don't care who participates, anybody can, but if like that everybody else, I mean, this was suggested. I don't know where James is at with this, if he even wants to have this process, but what was suggested was that that all the others would be kind of checked with him,
right?
so that he,
at this point, with my notes or whatever, it's like we're still focusing on the checklist for the author. So it's sort of, the two people that I would be asking these questions of mostly would be the initiator and the author. Sort of the key people rather than the witnesses. But
but
I don't know, like you said, all the roles can kind of change.
If I would be the author, if James is the one who's initiating it and decides an act, something that I've done or said, then if I would be the author, then this kind of excluded thing doesn't make any sense for me.
Right.
So
it's all relative depending on the situation. In some places or whatever, it would be completely irrelevant or whatever, and then in others it might be very relevant.
But in this case, like the only thing that has been mentioned so far is the possibility of that if James would like to have it as a way of becoming more comfortable and safe and feel cared for, like that his level of what he's capable of taking in is cared for by who's present there, like that he has
the agreement.
That he has a choice in it, that this was a suggestion and that's only for James. I don't see like why it should
it wouldn't be for every pre-circle interview.
I don't see. I think like take this as like this is a specific thing that we're starting right now, and it doesn't have to be a model for everything. But I don't see any point in if you're going to ask everybody the same question, it's going to be overcomplicated.
Totally. I agree.
But just so that people are aware of that, if this would be a condition, then that they're told that, okay, you may or may not be able to participate depending on the needs of,
Okay. Confirm that they want to move ahead, record agreements and needs of the author, manage expectations, get feedback, connect to those who have been named as participants, repeat the same questions made above. And then we've got the RC explanation I've already read out to you.
Mm.
And I've already read the process to you.
Mm.
And
Yes, we're getting to the
well,
end.
yes. So, yeah. Ask what worked well, express appreciations, what could be better, how do we dream that it could be, manage expectations of the group, record the agreements, monitor adherence to agreements in the post-circle meeting, do the round of checkouts, maybe add a closing story or a quote. And that's it.
Mm. I think as well, what's important for me is that there's an awareness of that if we start this process, that there might be more than one circle.
Yeah. And that was to
So
manage expectations, I think. It
yeah,
was the
yeah,
fact that, and that morose sentence or whatever that I need to kind of make a little bit more optimistic. But
yeah.
um,
Not
it was the,
optimistic. It can be real as well. Like, hey, you might not.
yeah, this conflict could stretch out for a good little while or whatever. Bring a
Yeah,
snack. You know, it's,
or you might not find like resonance with what's important for
yeah,
you or whatever. Uh,
yeah.
um, but what am I thinking? I am thinking
Actually,
that.
when Mikhail did his mediation, he told everybody to bring a snack.
Mm,
And I thought that was kind of cool or whatever. It's a very indirect way of communicating that it could be a long process.
mm. I think it's nice to be careful about time, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes.
that's the thing. So that's what I mean with that. There might be more than one meeting or something like that. But
Hmm.
um,
Well, and clearly defining the amount of time ahead of time, because
mm,
some people may find it a lot less intimidating if you make it clear exactly what the parameters are that they're
mm,
going into.
mm. And do you trust that because I've never seen you like check time. So
I
I
haven't.
want
No. I think what I would do is I would set times. Like I would actually start the meeting or whatever with
beep
a
beep beep.
stopwatch or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, exactly. Or I
Okay.
could appoint somebody to help me, like
Take
a
care of it.
co-facilitator that would monitor time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think actually, as far as division of roles, if it were left to me, then probably I would ask that of a co-facilitator. It would be, can you just keep an eye on the clock and, have a reminder or whatever, sort of 30 seconds before time is up,
Mm.
so that that's adhered to fairly effectively.
It induces trust in me that time would be cared for if somebody else did it. Because since I don't know, I've never seen you. Uh,
I'm not confident about the ability to multitask like
mm,
that or whatever right
mm.
off the bat. I think it would be unrealistic to expect
Okay.
that of me.
So
Yeah.
if you can find somebody who's
Yeah.
okay with doing that, then that would be great.
Okay.
Um, and we haven't talked anything about the practical stuff of a list of um, people who potentially want empathy. I want to try and reach out for it at least, and I want to offer it as well.
Yeah.
Like,
People who, yeah. I think when I said like people who need support
mm,
or people who could offer support, but
mm,
empathy. I was thinking empathy when
mm,
I wrote those notes.
mm.
Um, so they're included in there. But yeah, point timekeeper and circulate
List of contact
a
information
list.
for
Yeah.
people, contact info, however they want to be contacted. whatever
Right.
works for them, us, and if they want
For
to
empathy.
receive or offer, and or both.
That's right. Okay.
That you then share with people somehow.
Okay.
And then kind of a clear idea of what's the follow-up after the pre-circles, like how are you going to arrange the times and stuff like that. People are so different online
Yeah.
with what works. So it's good if you have that in the pre-circle, that you let people know what's going to happen, how it's going to be decided. How are you going to decide it, David?
I think that's part of the, yeah, it's part of the pre-circles. Like it should be part of the questions. Are you prepared to offer empathy to other members of the community in this situation? Do you have that capacity? Do you have um, do you have resources or whatever to seek empathy if you need it?
Yeah, I understood that, but
Sorry.
what I meant was in the pre-circles as well, to let people know I'm going to contact you again
Yes.
if it is 100 people who are going to decide on a time rather than 3 persons.
Right.
Or
Right.
4 now when you have the timekeeper.
Yeah.
Or yeah. uh, yeah, depending on if James is into the idea still.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, I'm just going on and on with my own
That's
little
okay.
sense of humor.
I took
Uh,
my turn.
yeah, um, um, but yeah, for me, it would be a wonderful gift if you tell me at the pre-circle how you're going to find out about the time,
Yeah.
how you're going to coordinate or arrange a time that works for everybody. I would love a doodle myself, so I can just like
Doodle code.
click through, and they change according to, because your computers or electronic devices speak with the world that is watching us.
Mm-hmm.
So they usually like they change automatically the time zone in it, so you can use them internationally. Um, so doodle, if you, I don't know, have you done a doodle?
Oh yeah.
You're used to doodle.
I'm used to doodle. I
Okay, not everybody is, so that's the thing, that if,
yeah,
but
they
I love,
got me
yeah, I
they
love,
got me used to it fairly early, but I
yeah.
find it kind of frustrating to set up still or whatever. I
Okay, but
try and
yeah,
negotiate it for small numbers, like 3 or 4 people. I try and avoid it, but yeah, with you're talking about anything greater than that or whatever, you definitely
yeah.
kind of
I know
start to
myself.
doodle.
I know myself. I get really like frustrated. I get really stressed out by just having a message chain or something back and forth about dates here and there, and nobody taking initiative for like something actually like deciding something. I just fall into a
Yeah,
pit of despair. So I prefer
that
doodle.
tells you that you kind of need. Yeah.
But I mean, if not doodle, then what? What's your preferred way of, like, in an easy way, finding a date and a time that works for people?
Um, no, I tend to side with you or whatever. I think that if it's larger than sort of 3 people or 4 people, and you can't sort of work it out in a very fast conversation, sort of, is Tuesday this time good for everybody?
Mm,
Then, yeah, you revert to doodle. I don't think.
mm,
I'm trying to remember actually. I think somebody shared a different one with me, but it wasn't nearly as good. I think Doodle was the more updated and
mm.
effective one of the apps that I used.
Yeah. So anyhow, that in the
Yeah.
pre-circle that you let people know how you're going to check in with them about the time. And some people are not used to doodle, so they might be terrified by it, or for whatever reasons it doesn't work for
Yeah.
them. So then you have to arrange again how to get the info from them.
Yeah.
But
Probably be a situation where you'd haul out your own phone or whatever and enter their information for them, and try and get it set up for them with as part of the interview.
but you don't know the unless you decide on some dates beforehand. I mean, yeah, you can do that as well. You can like decide dates and
Yeah.
then check in with people when they're ready, but you don't know in the pre-circle like when you're going to arrange talks with other people. So
Yeah.
you can't really propose dates
I'm
beforehand unless you set it like 3 months later or something.
yeah, I'm just thinking in relation to the people that really have a challenge with it or whatever. You could call them up and
Mm.
actually enter the information for them over the phone. It's like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
you know, sort of, let's talk about this now. So it'd
Yeah,
be a
yeah.
manual entry.
Yeah, yeah, but that's kind of agreed in the
Yeah.
pre-circle that okay, when the time comes to decide
Yeah.
a date, I'm going to send a doodle to people, but I will call you
Yeah. And
and
we will
check,
sort it
yeah,
out. Yeah.
or whatever it is. But yeah, you need
Okay.
to do that in the pre-circles if you put that
Mm-hmm.
somewhere there. Um, like when the circle is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I do want to have the thing about that. Yeah, depending on, okay, if James is still in on this and it sounds okay to him, then I want to know as well if he would be okay with me making an invitation in the NBC witness group for whoever
Okay.
wants to participate. Like first checking in if the description of what's going to happen is something that he agrees with or not.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm also aware of that if you somehow take this to James at some point, I think now would be a good moment. Like the next step would be that you kind of check in with James if he's still into the idea of an RC process. Perhaps
Okay.
ask him to watch this video and see if he managed to make sense of anything that was said here,
Okay.
or if he has any questions or comments in relation to you facilitating.
Mm-hmm.
I
Okay.
I personally I feel confident enough to go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at right now, even though I don't expect it to be like snag free, but
That's reassuring. I don't like disappointing you,
yeah,
but it's
yeah.
yeah. I had a lot of anxiety or whatever. I felt like I was submitting a paper right around exam time or whatever when I called you up on Messenger. I
Mm,
think there was a lot of other stuff going on for me
mm,
that it's like I should really show this to Milla or whatever and make sure it's good.
mm.
But yeah, yeah.
So
Anyway,
if you kind of rearrange the stuff that's in your outline, I would love to see the new version of it as well. Like, uh,
sure.
um,
I'll share it on the thread again with you,
yeah.
and I'll at Milla.
Your ad what? Ah, okay. Tag.
I'll just
Yeah,
yeah, I'll tag you or whatever,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
show the revision.
yeah.
Um,
Do you have anything
so
else
yeah,
you want to say in relation to this? Any questions or anything? I'm sure we're still not like 100% clear with one another, but
no,
I'm clear enough, and that's good enough for me.
good. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I'll keep working at it. I more stuff will come up.
Mm,
I'm going to get in touch with James, have a check in with him, I'm going to revise the stuff, show it to you. Maybe get set up with a doodle call um, for this stuff, but get a template ready. Um, that won't be high on my list, but I think it gives me
And
some things to do.
you need to either find a co-facilitator who will record the call,
The
who
timekeeper, yeah,
who you need to either like be sure that you know how to record. No, now I'm so stupid. I'm definitely tired because I'm like, okay, no, you don't need to because it's not going to be recorded. Okay, yeah, things are clear.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
all right.
If there's nothing else, let's have a checkout, unless there's something there that's, because it sounded to me it's clear enough. You're gonna check in with James if he's still
Yeah,
interested in the RC and kind of describe it to
yeah,
where we're at, and also offer this video that I will upload at some point.
thanks.
And then please give me regular updates on where you're at with this
Yes,
thing. Like, even if nothing has happened, then please, at least once a week, I would appreciate to know, so I don't get this
yes,
feeling that, oh, should I check in, like what's going on?
yeah. Okay, so when I submitted my proposal, did you kind of consider that sort of an adequate check-in update? Like when you see that level of proof of life, you kind of know where I'm at, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, like anything.
yeah,
It helps a lot when it's not confusing. Like when
yeah,
if you want something from me, ask it. Otherwise,
yes,
I just take it as, okay, there's something there. This is like where stuff it's at. It is at.
okay,
Can't even speak anymore. uh, yeah. And if I'm confused about what's said, then I will just maybe angrily ask, "What do you mean?" Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
I can handle that.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
so yeah. I hope let's do a checkout then. No? Yes? No?
Yeah,
Yeah?
sure.
You or me?
Go ahead.
Me.
You.
Um I'm happy that I've gotten enough kind of like that right now. I'm in a space where I don't feel so tense, so it's easier for me to deal with it. Deal with not being in a space where we're just like, oh, let's do it, but where, okay, no, let's talk about it and see if we understand one another. We don't understand one another, okay, then we have to talk about it again. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So right now, apart from having all these weird tensions in my body from not having moved enough, I feel
Mm,
good about being in a space where I feel confident enough to, if the next step would be that I'm contacted about a pre-circle, then woohoo.
okay.
Like
Okay.
that would be great. But I maybe what's important for me is, okay, now I'm adding it. What's important for me is that I would really like to be clear enough as well on that James knows, if he decides to
Yes.
get into that I know that I understand what it is he understand is going to happen. Does that make any
Yeah.
sense? I don't want there to be any weird surprises for him.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I want for him to feel confident and clear enough as well on what to expect.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But as I'm where I'm at least, I am clear enough and confident enough to like, yeah, let's try this and see what happens.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
yeah. So that's good. That's a good place for me. And I'm hoping as well that you're
Okay.
feeling okay with it. So yeah, I'm curious how you're at right now after all this talking.
I'm still feeling a little bit overwhelmed, but I have a checklist of things to accomplish. So I'm going to go and get them done. And I'm going to juggle it with everything else that I'm doing. And um, I will get hold of James and check his interest and offer him the video that you're going to send me and see if he's still willing to engage in RC and get questions and comments. And then I will post my update on Facebook and do a check-in with you and try and get a facilitator to do timekeeping. And then hopefully I'll be contacting you about a pre-circle.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, that is good. There was something that came to mind, but I forgot it. It's things are good.
Good.
And I
Get some sleep.
yeah, yeah. And I hope that I hope that you'll get into some fun learning, like once you get going with the, so to speak, real thing, and like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to putting this into practice and kind
Yeah,
of making it fluid.
yeah,
I know what you said about my analytical tendencies and stuff. I find once you actually break through those or whatever, it starts to flow pretty good, but getting out of the gate is rough sometimes.
mm,
So,
mm.
yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm very
Okay.
happy. I'm very happy you're still in the process, and you too get some rest and space to
Right.
think about all the stuff that's going on in your life. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Woohoo. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.